I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a sunshiny day.
It's good to see everyone on this Monday post-Thanksgiving. We're all still walking, and I don't see anybody in new clothes, which means we didn't have to buy new clothes. There's been some changes to the agenda. Antoinette had an emergency and needed to step away, so I'll be doing everything that she did.
Bless you.
Get us started off today. We'll bring up Camille Wilder Hairston for her. Oh, are you ready? I'm sorry, I don't mean to rush you. Are you ready? Okay. For her grammarian.
Come on down.
Introduction.
Come on down.
All right, ready. Come on down.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished Toastmasters. Today I went along with the theme that Antoinette proposed, which is champions. We're all champions. So my word for the day is winner. And a winner is a person that wins. It's also a synonym for champion, conqueror, hero, record holder, champ. When I think of winners, I think of not only people that compete, but people that just do the extraordinary to make it through life. And so I think in some respects we're all winners. And that's my word for the day, winner.
You're a winner. All right. Good job. Well done.
Thank you. And next I'd like to bring up Dr. Leonard Mukasa, Toastmaster Mukasa, for his Toastmaster Minute.
Here we go. 1 minute. Come on down.
1 minute. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Jana.
Come on down.
Most welcome. Post-Thanksgiving. Know your audience. Here are 2 ways to know your audience. First one is, where are they now? Where are they? We are in training, but when you are giving a speech elsewhere, a professional speech, I suppose, is focused on your audience. Where are they now? The second question, knowing their audience, which is positions really, is where are they going? Where do they want to go in the ideal situation? And your job in the speech is to build that bridge, move them along the bridge. That's our Toastmaster Minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Good job.
I'll wait till Leonard sits down before I introduce him as our next speaker.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Our first speaker of the day, presenting out of the Competent Communicator Manual, Proceed with Power. His project title is A Brief History of Tomorrow. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Leonard Mukasa.
Here we go. All right, tomorrow.
Thank you.
Champion and a winner.
We are coming to the end of 2017. I imagine you're all planning next year, which is tomorrow in this context. What have you read lately? Most of our time these days is on blogs, on tweet. How about a hardcover, maybe a soft cover book? I suppose a book online, I don't know those. what are you planning to read next year? I want to propose to you that here's one book you'd read. A brief history of tomorrow. I was visiting with my son in Boston, went to their bookstore, and there it was, A Brief History of Tomorrow. It's an intriguing topic, isn't it? I suppose Yuval Noah Harari, he's a professor of history in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I suppose he's not a prophet, he's just a writer. My background, Christian background, predicting tomorrow is dedicated to prophets. He has not claimed to be a prophet. He's a professor of history. And I was intrigued by this title. He's covered humanity's agenda the last century. On the left-hand side, we see famine, hunger. Plague here would represent infectious disease. And wars. We had the First World War, Second World War. For the US, we had the Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Afghanistan, back to Iraq. His thesis is that we've replaced these, not quite, but he's saying we've replaced these with these. 100 years later, we are eating ourselves to death. Conquered infectious disease, not quite. Why? Because I'm an epidemiologist. My goal is TB elimination. We are far from there as a world. Still have 9 million cases of TB, for example. HIV is raging, and malaria. In general, these pestilence diseases, infectious diseases, without treatment, being conquered by antibiotics, some hygiene, we are dying more of old age, he argues. And instead of those devastating wars, millions in First World War, Second World War, we're dying more of our own causes. Suicide is one, drug overdose is another. So what's the future like? Now that we've conquered all these things, the 21st century, we are 17 years moving. Where do we go from here? Jana projects, Patricia projects. I have my projects. I want to eliminate TB. It's a project, it's also a dream. I have nightmares, like terrorism. It's still here. What do we do? How about you? What are your projects? What are your dreams? What are your nightmares? I would propose to you that it's in our poverty, the little we have, especially us in public health. Recall that widow in the scriptures who put in just 2 coins, the equivalent of pennies today, just have 2 coins. One is for your God, and one is for your neighbor. As a rebuttal to this, because as it goes on, it's like worrisome, it's shaking. I have to submit to you that whatever we have in poverty, the 2 coins, you use one for your Lord, you pray and ask for mercy, forgiveness, and the other one, you use it for your neighbor. Love your neighbor. That's my rebuttal to Noah. Not so much to what about tomorrow, because you feel overwhelmed and you're stuck. But I would argue to you, as especially Toastmasters, that we are on the right path. We talk to our neighbor in this way, and we want to spread the nice discourse in the public square. I encourage you to read this book next year. Toastmaster Jana. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Mikasa. That was very interesting. Next, we'll bring up our second speaker, speaking from the Competent Communication Manual, Persuade with Power. Adrian Duncan with Our Future in Your Hands. Distinguished Toastmaster Duncan.
All right, thank you, thank you. Good looking. All right, super good. Thank you, Toastmaster Jana. You're in charge, right?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Good.
Okay, we want to put this in here.
You want to put it in my pocket?
Okay.
You got a pocket. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. The straw that broke the camel's back. Our future is in your hands. How many of you realize that today may be the first day of the rest of your life? I have a young friend of mine that lost his dearest and best friend of 40 years recently. The O is out of the box. When I say out of the box, I mean that you're not in the casket or in that pine box yet, thank goodness. There is a straw that broke the camel's back. He did not go to the dentist, broke the straw's back. He did not go to the doctor, broke the straw. He did not go to the hearing aid person to use hearing aids properly. He did not go to the person who could help him with his breathing, or the CPAP most of you may call. That was the O. I'm asking you to do something this week, this month, this year, out of the box. O-U-T. Our future is in your hands. You have the power to change the world today. May I show you how? The new employees at the health department are our future. Would y'all agree? Yes. Why? Because you are the one to teach them about leadership. Those of you that know about leadership, the individuals you're working with today and tomorrow and next year will be the ones that will be taking care of you in the nursing home. That should have been a laugh. Or in the funeral home. That should be a greater laugh. Should be taking care of you as a leader in our leadership roles as Toastmasters. That should be humorous. Because you are the one that will determine how our world will change in the next week, next month, and next year. You are our leaders. Or, those of you that have any of you read the book or information about the Golden Rule? Ah, good, 1. 1 out of 20. That's pretty good. I found out that 96% of all of our young people, the day they graduate, if they graduate from high school, have not read one single book in its entirety after they graduate from high school. Wow. The Golden Rule may be, as you do for the other person next to you, may be your caregiver. The reason I ask the question is because the young people that are my nieces and nephews are now the people that have and are living the golden rule. My niece is now a great niece that is the director of the Murray General Hospital, Regional General Hospital. She's the administrator. She makes the final decisions. Her daughter is one that is now becoming the person that will fill her shoes in the next 2 years. Wow. Her husband is now the chief of police in that city, which is now my, quote, nephew. Wow, that's tough, y'all. You better be. You may not know who these little children that you're teaching the golden rule may be the one that broke the straw that took the camel away from you. When I look at Al out of the box, I'm helping you to look to see how you can help others read the directions in your basic manual. There are 10 presentations in that manual that will help you become a competent communicator or leader or combination. The U is as you educate our new employees at the Arkansas Department of Health, maybe your leaders that will be taking care of you in the next 5 or 10 or 15, hopefully the next 30, 35, 40 years after you've retired. Our objective in rule, the golden rule, is to help you see something in Toastmasters. As you educate these new employees coming on board, they will help you learn the golden rule. I have a young friend of mine that's working with some individuals that are what we call mean. Has anybody met any young people that's mean? Wow. All right, I've got 2 people that has contacted me in the past 3 weeks that have said, okay, I have some 6-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and 16-year-olds that are behavioral challenges. I said, you got to be jiving me. The principal cannot manage. The teachers cannot manage. The pastors cannot manage. What are they going to do with these youngsters 6, 8, and 10 years old? My question is, how are we going to help them? Number one, I have found outside the box. If they're outside the box, there is something called an overrule. The overrule is to find out what makes those youngsters tick. Anybody know about the tick? That's a heartbeat. The out of the box is to find out what are the 3 things that will help these young people to behave differently. The next part is the you. Have you learned something in Toastmasters as a leader that will help you to manage these young people with behavior challenges? The R, are you teaching them the golden rule? As they do to you, can you help them figure out how you will do to them where they will not benefit from breaking, quote, the golden rule? I dare say, those of you in this room, if you will learn Toastmasters for the next 30 years, as I have learned, you will help others manage those individuals with behavior challenges. This one young person has a challenge, that has become a champion. This young man has 2 individuals working with him, both in the school system and as a counselor. 2 different individuals working with our children in the school systems that is helping our children to become champions. These young people already, within a month, have changed their behavior. Think about it. If your child, your niece, or your nephew, that will become your caregiver in the nursing home, or funeral home, or just in your home as physical therapist or occupational therapist. It may be the straw that broke the camel's back. However, it may be the straw that helps you to have a quality of life and a quality of laugh. Therefore, your hands, Ken, the guy that does our displays, our future is in his hands, and our future is in your hands as leaders. Madam Toastmaster. You're welcome.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster
You're welcome.
Adrian Duncan. Moving on, our third speaker of today is Brittany Lee, who will be speaking out of the Competent Communications Manual, Speech 5, Your Body Speaks. Her speech is entitled Loss in Interpretation. Please help me welcome Brittany Lee.
Oh, wow, Brittany, come forward. Yeah, you'll be a champion and a winner.
Good afternoon, Toastmasters.
Good afternoon.
My name is Brittany Lee, or if you like, you can refer to me as the winner or
Yeah, the winner. She's
champ
the winner.
of the CC competition.
Yes, winner.
As
Competition.
Jonna mentioned, this is my 5th speech,
Wow.
which places me 2 speeches ahead of Camille and Jerome and Lucy.
Hey, hey, the winner. Hey, the winner. Hey. Cool, the winner.
I get excited about competitions like this because I don't do a good job with athletic competitions or anything that requires hand-eye coordination. So you all have to excuse my excitement. But today I'm going to be talking to you. The title of my speech is Lost in Interpretation. We're taught not to judge a book by its cover. However, human nature drives us to make assumptions so that we can assess and conduct ourselves accordingly. Today I'm going to be talking about body language, and I want to make 3 points. 1, that body language is not universal, it's personal. It's also the way we interpret people's body language is biased by our own opinions, and that we should use context clues when making interpretations about body language. First point, body language is not universal, it's personal. There are some things that are universal, such as a smile, but there are some things that are not. I've read several articles that gives a breakdown of what certain body languages may mean, and it kind of drives me crazy. The first body language movement being the crossing of arms. It means that you're closed off, that you don't want to communicate. I'm guilty of doing this myself. Me personally, it's just a comfortable position. It's comforting for me. I often sit this way when talking to people, but I'm absolutely 100% engaged in what they have to say. Another body language movement that is often misinterpreted is the furrowed eyebrows. I've been accused of this as well. I've been sitting in class or talking to people, and I'm doing this. It's often because I'm listening and I'm processing what you're saying. I'm paying attention. It's actually a good sign. It doesn't mean that I'm angry or upset. My husband and one of his daughters actually do the same thing when they're watching TV. It's actually funny to look at off and tell them, stop furrowing your eyebrows at the TV, but they're engaged. They're captivated by what they're seeing on the screen. Another often misinterpreted body language is squinting of your eyes. Sometimes people think that means that you're uncertain about what they're saying or that they're suspicious. As you can see, I wear glasses. If I'm squinting my eyes, I probably cannot see 100% of the time. That's usually the issue. Refusing eye contact. That's a big one. I'm guilty of this one. I believe that if you can't make eye contact with me, then you're suspicious. It's something that you're hiding. When I first got married, this was a big concern for me because oftentimes when having a conversation with my husband, we'll be talking, I'm looking at him, and he's looking at the ceiling, he's looking at the curtains, and I will always say, look at me, I'm right here, talk to me. Well, as I got to know him more and his family more, it's a hereditary thing. His dad does the exact same thing. His kids do the exact same thing. Whenever you ask them a provoking question that requires them to think, they tend to look opposite from you to engage their thinking process and to not be interrupted. I came across another one that was news to me. Rubbing of eyes. They said that it could mean that that person is uncomfortable, that they may not be telling the full truth in what they're saying to you. I found that interesting as well. I've never heard that one. But as somebody who has chronic dry eye, I rub my eyes often because they're burning. So I just want to point these things out to you and recognize that there can be some observer's bias. When you grow up a certain kind of way, or when you are around certain people, you tend to pick up things, you know, whether it's a way of believing, whether it's, a way of believing, how you interpret body language, things of that nature. But recognize that that's not everybody else's truth. There are cultural and custom differences that can influence our body language and how we interpret it. I want to encourage all of you to use context clues when interpreting body language so you don't get lost in interpretation. First, get to know the person. Once you get to know the person, you'll be able to interpret their body language with more accuracy. Ask questions. If a person is sending you mixed messages, their body language is saying one thing and verbally they're saying something else, just simply say, hey, I'm a little confused. Can you clarify? You're saying this but doing this. Take into account cultural differences and circumstances. Oftentimes those influence our body language and what we think is okay and how we express those things. Just a little food for thought today. Thank you so much for your time. Toastmaster.
Good job. Wonderful. Well done. Now the champion, and she's the winner.
Thank you.
She's the winner. Champion.
Oh no! I'm trying to use the app for the ah counter, and I think I just erased everything. So everybody's doing great. I read somewhere that the direction that you look before you answer a question is indicative of which side of your brain you're accessing to answer that question. So if you look to the left, then I can't remember if it crosses with the eyes or not, but it's your left or right brain. Anyway, food for thought. Our next speaker for today is Shauna Meadows, who will be leading us through our table topics, one of our favorite parts of our day.
Good. Table
Please
topic.
help me welcome Toastmaster Shauna Meadows.
Super good. Great.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters.
Good afternoon. You look great. You're a champion and a winner.
Thank you. I have a question today for some of us who are going to participate with table topics. My first question is, if you could be an Olympic athlete, which sport would you compete in? And why? And I would like to ask that question to Camille.
Oh, Mr. Camille. All right. Come on down, Mr. Camille. Be a champion. Come on down. Come on down. Be a winner.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. The question is, if I could be an Olympic athlete, which sport would I compete in and why? I'm the least athletic person in the room, probably, so I have no idea what I would compete in. I would like to think that if I could imagine competing in something, it would be gymnasts. I like the way they go across the floor. I like the choreography, the dance. I like the skill level that they have. So if I could pretend to be an athlete, it would probably be a gymnast. I like how muscular they are. The shape is a little funny to me on top, though, because they do the bars. But if I could be an athlete, it would be a gymnast, and I think I would be a good one, I hope. But I like seeing their performances. I think, that's usually a crowd favorite as far as the events go in the Olympics. Most people like the gymnast. So I would be a gymnast.
Good job. Wow. Well done. And a champion and a winner.
I have a nephew that auditioned for American Idol. Have you ever sat and watched American Idol and you hear people sing and you wonder, why in the world did their family let them get up there and sing that song? Or why did they let them get in front of America and sing that way? And unfortunately, that is the question I had to ask myself when my nephew told me he was going to audition. He had posted many YouTube videos, and I heard his singing in church and other places, and I can tell you why I didn't say anything is because I didn't want to discourage him. Bless his heart, I didn't want to discourage my nephew. So, my question to you is, do you think that it requires more practice, or do you think it requires more talent to be a champion? And I'd like to ask that question to Patricia.
Ooh, Toastmaster Patricia, come on down. Toastmaster Patricia, come on down. All right. Be a champion and be a winner. Come on down. Be a champion and a winner. Come on down.
Do you think it takes practice, or is it talent to be a champion? I'm going to straddle the fence. I think it takes both. To be a champion, you have to know within yourself that you are a champion. You shouldn't rely on someone else telling you that you are a champion. But there are some of us who have skills, athletic skills. I would play basketball. That's my game. I'll take you to the hoop, Charlie. But some of us, just are skillful. That's just it's an innate skill that some people have to be successful at playing basketball, being a gymnast, running track, singing. Those things are innate. But it still has to come with practice. But I don't think if you're not successful at it, that does not mean you're not a champion.
Woo!
'Cause we're all champions in our own way. So I'm gonna straddle the fence once again. Toastmaster.
Good job. Well done. Yeah, she's a winner. Woo! She's a winner.
I was reading an article about what it requires to be a winner or a champion. And one of the main characteristics that a champion has is that they're able to bring out habits in themselves and behaviors in themselves that are congruent with the vision that they have for their lives. So what they visualize is realistic, and they're able to put that in perspective, what's real and what's not. So my question is to you, Lucy, are there any habits that you have that need to be changed in order for you to be a champion?
Woo! Come on down. Toastmaster Lucy. Good, great. All right. Be a winner, become a champion. Be a winner, become a champion.
Well, I'm not sure everybody can be a champion in every aspect of their lives, but what would help me probably in being a winner more, a champion more often, is several things. Procrastinating less would be good, because waiting till the last minute, you're not going to do things as well as if you do it, work on it ahead of time. And I tend to procrastinate, not badly, but in the task that I'm less interested in. So that would help. And also, that's a big one. I think if there's another, I'm sure there are. Maybe just sometimes making the assumption that I can do something that is out of my range of general interest, and working on that, and not just taking on the things that I already know that I'm good at. That's a good way to expand your options and be a champion.
Good job. Well done. Well, champion. Yes, winner. Be a champion.
I have one last question, and this question is, what is a breakfast for champions? Charlie.
No, Charlie, come on down. Toastmaster Charlie. Here we go. Woo! Be a champion, be a winner. Breakfast for champions. He's a champion and a winner.
Literally or figuratively speaking?
I would like to know literally and figuratively.
I feel like I have a pretty good breakfast for champions. So every morning, this is my routine. I'll wake up, get the boys ready for school, get everybody out the house, and I have the house to myself. I have about 10 minutes. I'll grab a fruit, some type of Nutri-Grain bar, and then I'll get my pre-workout supplements ready, and I head to the gym. Work out, get out, and then I eat a bowl of oatmeal. Now, this is the trick for oatmeal. You don't put sugar. You don't put all that unhealthy toppings. You get honey, and you sweeten your sugar, and you get cinnamon. And you can cut up apples, almonds, things of that sort. And that is the greatest breakfast of champions, along with the protein shake.
Good job. Well done. That's a winner. Champion. Winner and a champion.
Thank you. That's all of my questions.
Excellent. Well done. They're champions and they're winners.
Thank you, Toastmaster Meadows.
Good job. Well done.
It's time for the evaluation portion of our meeting. So I'd like to bring up our general evaluator first, Toastmaster Lucy Tobin.
Woo! Lucy, come on down, Lucy. Toastmaster Lucy. Good to go.
Thank you.
Well done.
I have a little related tip that I just discovered, that if you go to the Toastmasters site and search in their search box, it doesn't always pull up what you're looking for. So if you just go to Google and put Toastmasters in your topic, you can find all kinds of interesting things, including stuff from other states that they've put together for certain purposes. So I found this article on evaluation, and I'm just going to read a couple of little tips from it. One is that it says to approach your speech with honesty while remaining positive. And I thought that was an interesting way of thinking of it, because you want to be honest, but you don't always want to. I mean, some people think they're being honest when they're being rude, and you don't have to be. I've never heard anyone in here doing that, but it's just a good thought. And then I've heard this before. We've been reminded before, evaluate the speaker, what the speaker is doing, not who they are. And personalizing the language, that's something from my social work background that I think is important, and using I instead of you, especially when you're giving the constructive criticism. And the overall point they made, I thought was really good, and I've seen this. Members who receive thoughtful evaluations feel heard and become motivated to improve. So that's our overall goal, and we'll start with our first evaluator, Jonna Jacobs. Are you doing the first one?
Toastmaster Mukasa.
Okay. I am evaluating Leonard Mukasa's speech, A Brief History of Tomorrow. I thought he did a great job. I think I'm going to go out and read that book. Probably try to check it out from the library first on my Nook. Yes, I still use a Nook. I'm always interested in books that combine a little nonfiction with creative nonfiction and speak to topics that we all need to pay attention to. Felt he was very sincere in his conviction. He had an obvious passion for the material that was contained within the book. He knew a lot about it, showed him as a credible source of information. His opening started with a long pause, which is really effective. It really kind of makes you lean in and watch, wait for what's coming next. I'm counting my own ahs, so. He caught our interest with the shift of the 1900 challenges with the the modern day challenges that we face, which are really aligned with the public health issues that we learn about in our jobs or in school. Nothing new with that, but good to see it translated in a different type of text. That it's being recognized that all the things that used to be major challenges have just converted almost solely into personal lifestyle changes with diet situation. I don't know where you'd put suicide and violence, but instead of wars, which we are definitely still contributing to, we're also inflicting a lot of violence on ourselves and on our society. If I would say I would have liked to heard more. That's my main critique. And maybe that could have been accomplished by focusing on one of those major points, because it was so broad that you got a good overview, but I really would have liked to heard more about any particular one of those, or maybe in a longer speech. Did a great job, Dr. Mikasa. Appreciate hearing future speeches.
Well done. Champion and a
General Evaluator Tobin.
winner.
Yes, it will be Joyce Biddle.
Okay. Evaluator number
Mr.
2.
Joyce, come on down.
Adrian speech, Joyce. Postmaster Joyce.
I am evaluating Adrian's speech. I forgot the title. I didn't bring my paper. But Adrian's speech was Persuade with Power, which Adrian tends to want to do Persuade with Power a lot whenever he's doing a speech. And most of the time is always about us trying to get more members in, which, you know, we do need to do that. Because I think it's because most of the time all of our members are not here. But that's neither here nor there. But back to the speech. I think you started out with an effective use of your straw as a visual aid. I like that, as you were demonstrating what the different parts of what your visual aid was talking about. And you had great vocal variety, which you always have that. And I also like your suit. It's a nice suit, because one of the things that you're supposed to do when you're speaking is to have a great presence. And that's a great presence because that suit is very well put together, and I like that bow tie. You were using persuasion as to look outside the box. And we do need to look outside the box when we're trying to do something of this magnitude. The only thing that I was a little lost on is you were spelling out something, and I got a little confused as to what you were spelling out, but that was my only criticism. Other than that, you did a great job with the speech, and you should do, and as you know, you're a DTM, so you know how to do all these things. Thank you.
Good job. Well done. Well said. You're a winner and a champion. Well done.
And for our third evaluator, we have Toastmaster Monique.
No, you press something else.
Number 3. Here we go with number 3.
Don't speak yet. Don't speak yet. He came out of my app. Oh, that's what you did.
Okay.
Go hit pause first.
Okay.
Then say. Okay?
Okay.
Hold on. You don't have the correct time for me.
That's all right. We're good. 2 minutes. We're perfect. He's a winner. He's a champion.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today I am evaluating Brittany Lee, aka the winner.
Yeah, she's the winner. Hey, she's the winner.
Her speech was entitled Lost in Interpretation, and it was Your Body Speaks. Overall, I believe, Brittany, you did a great job in the use of body language. You spoke clearly, and what you spoke to us about was relatable, and it was also humorous. What stuck with me was the point that you made that body language was not universal. It's personal, because I always consider it to be universal. So those are good tips that you gave. Your preparation was excellent. You were confident in your manner. Your posture was balanced. You had good gestures. Body movement was good and effective. You made eye contact, which was great. You used facial expression, and the purpose of your speech was clear. So you did a good job. Other points that you made that I thought were good, that we have to get to know the person so we can know how to read their body language and know what they're conveying, because it's not universal. So, good job. Thank you.
Well done. She's the winner. Number 1 winner. Champion.
Now we have a report from our grammarian, Toastmaster Camille.
All right. Camille. Toastmaster Camille. All right. Come on. She's the winner and a champion.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I think we did quite well in our use of the language today. There were a few cutoff words, sitting versus sitting, a couple of and a couple of cause instead of because. But other than that, I think everybody did really well in their usage of the language. As far as the word of the day winner, I counted at least 11 cases where people actually said winner. But if we also include champion, we went over 20 or more times. So since they're synonyms, I'm going for both words. I think we did quite well in that use of the word today, and we are all winners. Thank you.
All winners. Good job. All winners.
And we have our counter report from Toastmaster Jana Jacobs.
Come on down. I'll counter.
Thank you. It's my first time using the app. Just going to read what I clicked in here. I was using my pen to tap the bell because it's so loud. As you in here is Miriam, Camille. That's your bill collector name. I
On the
love
website,
it.
that's right.
I love it.
That's how it is in the website.
In your intro for the grammarian, 1 2 so's, and an and. Leonard Mukasa, for your speech, 2 ands. Ooh, Adrian Duncan, it says clear.
Wow.
I guess that means none.
Thank you. Oh, I'm clear. I'm glad I'm clear. Thank you.
Camille, for your table topics, a so and an and. Patricia, for your table topics, an and 2 buts. Lucy, for your table topics, 2 a but, and an and. Charlie, for your table topics, 1 so and an and. Lucy, for your introduction as general evaluator, an 2 a so, 1 but, and 4 ands. It's just, no, I have to click it. Yeah.
Click it. Click it.
I had one that I counted, but I was a little distracted. Joyce, you had one Monique, 3 so's, 2 ands, and Camille, for your last grammarian report, 1 so. Good job, guys.
Wow.
Turn it back over
Y'all looking great. Wow. Super good.
Lucy
Champions.
Tobin, our general evaluator.
Champions and winners. Wow.
Thank you.
Now we have our timers report
Here we
from
go, champion.
Toastmaster Joyce Spittle.
Toastmaster and timer, Joyce. We see distinguished Toastmaster Joyce. Toastmaster Bill.
For the timers report, we started on time at 12 o'clock.
Very good job.
The grammarian took 26 seconds to present the word of the day. The Toastmaster minute was 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Perfect.
For the speakers, Leonard was 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Adrian was 7 minutes 18 seconds. Brittany was 6 minutes 20 seconds. For table topics, Shauna introduced table topics for 33 seconds. Camille's table topic was 1 minute and 2 seconds. Patricia was 1 minute and 26 seconds. Lucy was 1 minute and 9 seconds. Charlie was 1 minute and 11 seconds. Evaluations. Donna was 3 minutes. Joyce was about 2 minutes.
It was.
Monique was 1 minute and 20 seconds. The general evaluator took 1 minute and 34 seconds to introduce evaluation sections. All counter was 1 minute and 43 seconds. The grammarian was 42 seconds, and I have been speaking for 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Woo,
And we are on time.
All right, on time, y'all. Right on time. Champions and winners. Winners, champions and winners. Good. Excellent. Excellent.
Turning this back over to Toastmaster Johnny Jacobs,
Good job, everybody. Good winners.
who deserves an extra applause today for filling in and doing multiple roles and even counting her own ahs.
That's excellent.
We got a couple of minutes. I put a sign-up sheet back there for the speech contest. I'd like to propose a date of January 29th. Will someone check and see if that's a Monday?
First, 8, 17,
Okay.
20. January 29th. Write it down.
So it's an international and evaluation speech contest. The international speeches can be on any topic of your choosing. We need to have our results in if we wish to compete at the next level. We need to have our winners into the regional directors, area directors, by February 17th. So if we do it on the 29th, we'll have plenty of time to get those in.
Right.
Do we want to take a vote on that?
Yes, let's do it.
I
Everybody
nominate that we hold the speech contest on January 29th. Can I get a second?
Second.
All yeses?
Yes.
Any nays? Great. So our speech contest will be on
January 29th.
January 29th.
Send out an email.
We need,
Since y'all voted on there, y'all know we gotta have some contestants.
Right. Yeah.
generally, there's 3 speeches. There's 3 international speeches and 3 evaluators.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you can't be both, so you can't be a speaker and an evaluator, correct?
But you can in
No,
this case.
yes, you can.
This
Oh,
is
okay.
different. This is a contest, therefore you can be both in this situation. Yes.
Okay. Are the evaluators evaluating the speakers?
No, 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 no.
What are they evaluating?
Okay, there will be a target
There's a
speaker.
target speaker for the evaluators.
Right. That's a specialty program.
Somebody will do a target speech, and all the evaluators evaluate that speaker.
For example, I'll be a target speaker. This is just an example. And then we'll have 3 or 4 or 5 evaluators that will do an evaluation. Then there's judges. There'll be 3, 4, or 5 judges that will evaluate which evaluation presenter, which did the best job of doing the overall evaluation of my presentation as a target speaker. Or if Ms. Joyce is the target speaker, then those 5 people that are evaluating her speech, they will have 5 judges or 3 judges that will determine which one of those presenters did the best job in evaluating her presentation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So there's a sign up back there. There are lots of opportunities to, I've already picked chair because I want to check that off my CL manual.
All right, good.
We need speakers, we need judges, a lot of judges, I think 6 and an alternate, 1 chief judge.
But at least start with 3, that, at least minimum
You
of
can
3.
have, you need a minimum of 3 at the club level.
And we can also have other club members from other clubs come in and work with evaluations and counters and timers also. We can do that.
Okay, and we need counters and timers.
Right.
So on the sheet back there, you can flip it over and there's a couple more spaces if it fills up, because I know you guys are so eager to
Right. Good.
jump into this.
Good. Good.
If you go to the Toastmasters International site and type in the search box speech contest, you can get a copy of the rule book, descriptions of each type of speech. There's a judging form on there, so you'll know what your judges will be judging you on.
Right.
So please access that.
Right.
If you have trouble finding it, let one of the officers know and we'll email it to you.
Right.
Are there any other announcements?
Oh, this announcement on the screen over here, I announced it last week, but Advanced Toastmasters is having a special meeting in their January meeting on effective evaluation. So
Practice.
we'll spend the time training on the effective evaluation, the correct way to give an evaluation on the Toastmasters.
Great. We have an officers' meeting on either January 13th or 25th. You have to attend one if you'd like to attend both. There's lots of interesting breakout sessions that you can attend. They're both at Southwest Power Pool, which is a really interesting building. If you haven't been out there, it's worth it just to go see that building.
Right out by Kroger's. Right out by Kroger's.
If there's,
It's a nice building, I'll tell you.
yeah.
Do we need to talk more about our open house for our health
Oh, yeah,
department?
we're supposed to
Open
be
house?
having an open house.
We need to
What
do
day
that.
did we vote on?
The
It's on
16th.
What?
The 16th, January 16th.
I believe Camille is our hospitality chair. Yeah.
So that checks off one of your projects for your manual. Helping
January 16th.
organize is also a check on your CL manual.
And there's hospitality chairs, you can check that off and see on there.
January 16th.
January 16th.
Make a big to-do about that.
That's because Monday's a holiday.
Monday is a holiday. MLK Day. It may be MLK Day, Tuesday, the 16th, January. Make a big deal. January 16th, open house. Make a big deal out of it, y'all. Please consider.
Yes, and please, if you'd like to help
Somebody
Camille.
to work with Brandy on publicity.
Flyers. Get them to hand out flyers.
Okay.
Take
So
flyers.
make sure you get with Brandy.
Yep, hand out flyers. We'll take up a collection if people
Well,
want to and can. We said we could do that. Take up a
I would
collection.
rather us not touch the budget, the treasury,
We can take up.
because I'd like the treasury to build up.
Can take up a collection. But we bring anything we can for the next couple of weeks. Just put a couple extra dollars in your pocket and bring it. Lucy, you can also get a check for a project in your CL manual for helping with flyers.
Yeah, you can put that in, because there's a project for publicity. So you can put that in.
Who's in charge of the open house? Which person is collecting it? What?
Camille?
Camille? Okay. Camille, before you leave, see me for 1 minute. Thank you, please.
All right, and y'all heard the gauntlet get thrown. Brandy's our champion. Unless she has no contenders, Camille. Not naming names. Shauna,
Brittany
you
is
could
our
be.
champion.
Brittany, what did I say?
You said Brandy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I look at you every day and I still
I
called
look
you.
at you every day.
Sorry.
I got a challenge I'm going to throw out.
What? Challenge.
I have 3
Sorry.
mentees.
3.
I have 3 mentees. I'm going to throw a gauntlet out to the 3 mentees that I have. And I will have a prize out for which one of my 3 mentees finish their CCC first.
She's a 2-time winner.
Somebody's a little cocky.
Is she a 2-timer? Is she a 2-timer?
It's 1:01, so we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you,
adjourn.
Toastmasters.